You're welcome back. This Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. We have 3 segments for the 3 hours, 3 topical issues. We're dealing with the computer placements and the problems that continue to come up almost every year and why we can't seem to resolve those problems. Abandoned hospitals. Why is that so? And the corruption debate. The president says that corruption tag of he being a clearer, is it, will not stick. So for the first hour, my guests are Dr. Kwabena Bempatando. He is Acting Deputy Director General of the GES. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Also here in the studio is Dr. Justice Yankson, General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association and a practicing lawyer. Thanks for joining us, Doc.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. Also here this morning is the rebel, Kofi Bentil, Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You put up a message on social media and it went viral, and there was a hashtag about it.
Some people
you didn't seem to like the hashtag.
No, you see, I'm sure what I want to say. And many times people ask me, why are you not saying this? Or why are you not? I just said what I wanted to say. I didn't want the hashtag. And it went all over. I was getting it from all over the world.
All right. You are essentially saying that?
It had to do with PDS.
Yes.
The fact that generally speaking, it's clear they don't have money, but we hoped or pretended that they had money. It's clear they couldn't run the things we gave them to run, and we were just hoping they would run it. Okay. Now it's clear the thing has collapsed, but we are still going along with them. And it's worrying that something is very clear, but we all pretend we don't see it. That's a real problem.
A friend, Kuku Enchibwesiako on Facebook also says that this is the PDS matter summarized. I give you my timepiece, and I ask you to tell me what time it is. Okay, so also here in the studio is Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. He's MP, North Tongue. Thank you very much for joining us. And Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of the August House of Parliament. He's also been writing some epistles and telling the president his peace of mind about the matter of corruption. But for the first segment, we are not talking corruption, unless it is corruption that is causing the placement system to not be able to place the students. We will talk about corruption later. It's one of the biggest discussions for this morning. All right, so let's listen to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, and I think a couple others. We'll come back to the studio and ask why the ritual wahala.
By our predictions, approximately 490,000 qualified students will be placed. Purchase your voucher from vendors or with mobile money online. 2, you visit, this year we have 2 websites that they can go. You visit either cssps.gov.gh or csssps.org. Then you click on check placement. Then you enter your index number and your voucher code.
All right, so that's the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, and that was at a press gathering where he had to give the release and tell us what was to be expected. Unfortunately, things have not been that smooth. In fact, parents have been worried, guardians have been worried, and the students are equally worried. Frustration and some traumatized because they didn't expect this to be the situation. So, about, is it 2-3 days ago or so, you gave a statement and asked that those that have not been able to be placed by the machines, by the system, should go where and do self-placement. And that also there are problems with it. The question is, why did we get there? What's wrong?
Well, thank you very much. I would first like to situate the conversation within a certain context, because if we pluck it out of context, then it makes no sense. Number one is to look at the number of students that actually had complete files after we collected all of our data from WAEC. WAEC submitted to us 512,083 complete files in terms of students who had all of the credentials and have sat for the exams to be considered for senior high school placement. Out of that, there is a disqualification rate. And that disqualification is based on whether or not a student got a 9 in mathematics or a 9 in English. And so that disqualification rate took out 38,355 students. Now, these students don't have to end their educational career. There are opportunities for them to resit based on some of the policies of former President John Mahama in terms of the resit policy. And then there is also an opportunity for them to actually repeat junior high school 3 at no cost to them, and then rewrite the examination.
Rewrite to improve.
To improve.
Not that they have failed.
Yes, rewrite to improve, especially their mathematics and English. Now, out of the 512,083, we have 473,728 who were qualified to be placed. Now, when students are qualified to be placed, we then look at certain things. We look at their choice, because in this country, one of the conversations that we don't have is that fundamentally, senior high school education and where you go is by choice. Nobody has the authority to pick you and put you in any school, but you choose. So before the students write the exams, they make certain choices. I would like to go to this school for my first choice, this school for my second choice, this school for my third, fourth, and then if all of them I am unable to get into, this is a school closer to me that I would like to go as a day school. So number one is school choice. Then number two is program choice. I would like to go to this particular school and do science or do general arts or do business and so on and on. Then the third choice that every student makes is their residential choice. Put me in this school either as a boarding student or put me in the school as a day student. So based on that, we took the 473,728 students and ranked them in order of merit. Once you rank them in order of merit, then you start doing the placement. Now, the placement algorithm, which has been the same algorithm that has been used for all these years since we started CSSPS, picks each student and then match them against their choice. Now, you may have gotten an aggregate 6, and then you may have gotten 6 ones for your aggregate 6. And then you said that you want to go to Presec, for example, and you want to go and do science. Now, Presec has declared 200 spaces for science. And so all of the students who choose to go to Presec and want to do science are ranked in order of the best students who chose that school all the way down. Now, once the system picks the top 200 students for Presec based on Presec's vacancy, student number 201, even if he had 6 ones, cannot go into Presec because there isn't any more space. Now, you can also not put that student in Presec, for example, to do general arts because he said he wanted to do science. And so that student must now go to their second choice school to compete. When they go to their second choice school, they must compete in rank again. So if they get to their second choice school and there are students in there, but their aggregate 6 is better than some of those other students, they displace the bottom students.
Right.
So it's a very fair system. Now,
That's what it's supposed to be.
that is what it's supposed to be, and that is what it is. So once you run through the process, then we had out of the 473,728, the system was automatically able to place 351,022 students. Why is that? Why couldn't the system place all 473,000? It's because of choice. Because once you run a student through all of their 5, and they are unable to compete in any of the 5, regardless of their aggregate, we don't have the right or the authority to put that student into any program because the student didn't choose. So then what we do is that after we run that, there are then 122,706 students that could not compete in the automatic system. But we also do know that based on the vacancies declared by our 721 senior high schools in the country, we have vacancies for 520,298.
Okay.
And so there is enough vacancy around the country. It's just that the choice pattern will get some people to go without being placed.
So the self-placement allows a fair opportunity for those who didn't get placed for the good reason you just stated,
Yes.
to now come back and say, I can find space in PRESEC,
If it is available.
For example, I may be able to find space in PRESEC, but not to do read science.
Exactly.
So now I have the opportunity to choose it myself, not for general arts to be imposed on me.
Exactly.
Is that the understanding?
That is the total understanding.
Okay.
And so that is the process by which the CSSPS system has worked over the past 14 years.
It looks almost perfect.
Yeah.
So why the problems?
Well, I believe that one of the things that we would like to let the general public know is that we need to exercise a certain level of calm. And this is why. The choice patterns, everybody feels, for example, and I have a certain number of schools that I would like, if you permit me, to share. Everybody, for example, wants to go to, and I like using PRESEC because Honorable and I has the opportunity to talk about PRESEC a lot.
Okay.
PRESEC this year.
Why, did you also go to PRESEC like
No,
him?
I actually went to Prempeh College.
Oh, okay.
But
Prempeh
PRESEC,
College, okay.
for example, declared 1,122 spaces in the school for all of their programs. 1,122 spaces. Now, the number of students in all of the choice files that said, I want to go to PRESEC, either as my first, second, all the way to 5th choice, were 6,948. But there are only seats for 1,122. And so all of the people who chose PRESEC, only 16.14% can gain access. So the rest of the people, even though they may go to the other choices, in everybody's mind, I want to go to PRESEC.
Right.
So I just want to give you a few others. Wesley Girls, which is the talked about school in the country. Wesley Girls in Cape Coast. 4,990 students or young girls and young women said, I want to go to Wesley Girls. But Wesley Girls only had enough vacancy for 510. And so that is only 10.22% of the students can gain access to Wesley Girls. Holy Child, 4,536 students said, I want to go to Holy Child. But Holy Child only had space for 476.
Oh, gee.
So that is 10.49%. Infantsipim, where my senior brother went to school, 4,804 people said, I would like to go to Infantsipim for choice. But Infantsipim only had space for 1,021. That is 21.25% of the students can gain access. Then let me look at some other boys' schools. Prempeh College, of course. 9,705 people said, I would like to go to Prempeh College. But Prempeh College only had space for 1,530. That is 15.76%. Then if we look at our own Achimota that we also talk about a lot, 18,778 people said, I would like to go to Achimota. But Achimota only had space for 1,190.
Oh, I thought Achimota was bigger. It had bigger space.
Sometimes that's what we think. And if it had not been for double track, you couldn't even have created that much space in Achimota, right? And so that is, so Achimota is only 6.34% of the people who wish to go to Achimota can have access. Now, let me give you some large ones. Agri Memorial, AME Zion. Agri Memorial, 22,586 people within the choice files said, I would like to be placed in Agri Memorial if there is space. Agri Memorial only had space for 800 people. So that is 3.54% of the people can gain access. Now, let's go to some two other big ones, then we'll end there. Ghana National College, also in Cape Coast. 35,501 people said, I would like to go, but they have to compete for only 850 spaces. And so that is 2.39%. Then the largest school in terms of choice where people wanted to go is Kumasi Secondary Technical School.
Kuhis.
Yes, which is right in Patasi.
No, that's Kumasi High, sorry. Not Kumasi
Not
Secondary
Kumasi,
Technical.
yes.
Okay.
Kumasi Secondary Technical is in Patasi.
Okay.
37,457 students.
I'm surprised about that, though. What was the
Well,
capacity?
Their capacity was 1,214.
Out of...
But 37,000 people wanted to go there.
Okay.
So that is only 3 points. So what I'd like to present this so that we understand that our choice patterns, are not reflecting, our the spaces that we have available.
Okay.
But one of the things I would like to also say is, again, I have been to Honorable's constituency, and there is a great school there called Bator Senior High School. Excellent facilities. But when students don't choose that school, your only option to getting students to go to Bator in North Tong is to open Bator up in self-placement, because we cannot push a student to Bator who didn't choose Bator Senior High School. So the idea that...
You are saying it is not you or your system that places a student from, say, Boga in Bator as a day student. It's not your system.
The student must choose Bator as day, because it is by choice. If you look at the choice patterns, and I can share all of the data.
Where are
with
those
you.
complaints coming from? Because we have heard people complain that, a child who is somewhere in the Western region is being given a school far away from the region as a day student.
My friend, what I would say is that sometimes a lot of these are sensationalization.
Okay.
Right. Because everybody chooses. Every student has a catchment area out of which they choose their school. Now, we also live in Ghana, where I am from Goso in the Ahafo region, but I live in Accra. So I may have a nephew who is living in Goso and want to go to Accra Academy as day, because my nephew knows that I live in North Kaneshie. So my nephew in Goso in Ahafo region will choose Accra Academy for their day choice, because if I am given day, I will live with my uncle. And so the choice is what we use to make the placement. And I think that it is a fundamental thing that we need to be able to.
Okay, so
to
you
understand.
hold on there. We'll come to even the self-placement and the difficulties that parents, and guardians are having about the self-placement. And let's hear Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, who's been Deputy Minister for this sector before, to also tell us what he knows about this situation and why we always come back to what appears to be, from, Dr. Tando's explanation, not a problem, looked like self-created. And partly also because we don't seem to educate the children to choose schools in their catchment areas and so on and so forth. And then later, Kofi Bentil, who is so good at analyzing some of these matters, will bring his expertise to bear. Yes, so what exactly is the problem? Is it the figment of our imagination, or that there really is a problem with the system? Because every year we have heard parents just crying.
Yeah, thank you, Samson, and good morning to you and to the panel. Good to see you, Dr. Ando. It's been a while. It's a good friend of Presec, and I think Presec and Prempe have a good rivalry, if I put it that way.
Did both of you lose your boasting rights over
The champions are here. I see them arguing among themselves.
I actually was accepted to present,
but we are the champion of champions.
My father is a strong
be careful. Be very, very careful.
You know that we are the most decorated.
No, you can't be. You are just a local champion.
All right.
That
What
is
have you done in West Africa?
Totally
Okay.
undisputable.
But we beg you.
Something permit me to begin by this is my first radio outing since my primaries.
Okay.
So it is only appropriate that I extend my very, very sincere gratitude. I do owe the good people of Northtown a debt of appreciation for their overwhelming and resounding votes in the last NDC.
Congratulations. It appeared there was actually no competition for you, really.
Yes, it does appear. Yeah, didn't look like that in the beginning, but I didn't take anything for granted.
Right.
So I thank them very much, the chiefs and people, the delegates, and
So he's already in parliament.
they can count on my continuous dedication and commitment to duty. And good morning to all our distinguished viewers and listeners across the globe. The annual ritual, as you rightly call it, I must begin by expressing my empathies with the current team at the Ministry of Education. I know that it is not easy at all. It is getting to July, August, September, when the placement processes must begin. It's tedious, onerous, it's a lot of work. And I do know that it is not an easy task. I must also confirm to you something, that the challenges that have been expressed out there are real.
Right.
We don't have to pretend about them. They are real challenges. Indeed, it is because of these challenges which date prior to the introduction of the CSSPS in 2005 that the idea was mooted to go electronic and reduce the human factor to the barest minimum as much as possible. And that is why in 2015, 10 years after implementing the CSSPS, we convened a stakeholder forum. I have here handing over notes. We presented a report from the stakeholder forum carrying out a 10-year assessment, which President Mahama instructed us to carry out, because under his tenure as well, we had these concerns and reservations and frustrations of parents, guardians, students, and we thought that we should carry out this review, invite all the stakeholders, the CHAS, the PTAs, invite WAEC, invite the educationists and all the technical people, software producers who we had used over the years to do a critical assessment, and that report is available. It is quite disappointing, something, that it does not appear that we have learned lessons. And I do take issue with some of the measures that the current government have implemented. I think that they have aggravated the situation.
How exactly?
And created more troubles for themselves. For example, the change of software. Why change the software 3 months to such a major exercise? I am reliably informed.
Take note of that.
I am reliably informed that a new software contract was signed 3 months ago. You don't do that, because these things you need to do test runs and all of that. Then 2, that policy of 30% placement from public schools. He gave us all the startling statistics. I mean, preset 1,100 spaces declared. Over 20,000 people apply. So when you introduce a 30% reserve for students from public schools, you further worsen, the challenge. You make it even more acute in terms of providing space on merit for those who qualify to enter. When I heard that figure, 30%, based on the data that I worked with at the Ministry of Education, I thought it was too high. If you look at the education sector performance reports, you notice that even now in Greater Accra, private schools at the primary and JHS level have far outnumbered public basic schools. Indeed, public basic schools, but per the last data I saw, were just about 24%. So more than 75% of schools at the at the basic level are private. And across the country, you are now seeing an average of about 60%. You know, so when I understand the rationale, the policy. I'm not against this affirmative action so that a constituent of mine in an island community in Dofokome, where they still are not connected to the national grid, they're living in very deprived conditions.
No private business person will be interested in putting up a school there.
Will have a realistic chance of also attending Presec or Infancy or Prempe or Adisad or Wesley Girls. But we have to be scientific. 30% is too high. And in my view, that is what has even further worsened matters. Then there is also the issue, the third matter I want to raise is with personnel. We keep doing this as a country. Why do we have to virtually replace experienced hands at the CSSPS Secretariat?
That's what has happened?
That's what has happened. I would have thought that they would have kept at least key personnel. I mean, I was speaking to Dr. Atabwatin, who used to be our CSSPS boss. And I asked him, how many of your colleagues are still there? He said, I can't even confirm to you if one survived. Everybody's been cleared. You see, this is public service.
It's such a specialized place. You guys take your politics there too?
We don't need to take our politics there. We don't need to do that. And so when you bring fresh hands, then you complicate it with new software, which has not been tested, no trial runs. And because of free SHS, we all admit that the numbers have gone up. Because anytime you introduce social interventions in education, the numbers go up.
Okay.
So that is why, though I empathize and I will confirm that every year this has been challenging and it's not easy and all of that, the new measures, the new interventions.
But this will not be the first time a new software is being brought on.
But this is the first time it's been done so close. 3 months.
In your regime, a new software was also brought on. The originators of this CSSPS, you know, were sort of...
in 2000...
They were jilted somewhat.
In 2009, yes. We were not at the ministry then.
But
you will admit
and you could also tell that the very initial stages, commencement stages, we had a few difficulties, but later on it appeared to be a little smoother. And then when... you know, we threw away those who, you know, originated the thing. Then the problems began to compound. And we seem to be having a repeat.
You see, I am not one who believes in reinventing wheels. If you can perfect systems, it's better to do that. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to what the team at the time knew, the 2019. And these are people I hold in high esteem, the Honorable Tetenyo, Dr. Annan. I do not know what the review report told them and what they disclosed to them when they carried out their review. What I also do know for a fact is that the new software that they procured, when we got to the ministry in 2013, we maintained it, we perfected it every year, and Dr. Tabuatin's team. And remember that we also had a supervisory body which was known as the Technical Working Committee to supervise the CSSPS Secretariat. That is another thing they have done now, where they've taken that away. And I would appeal to them to restore an oversight team to carry out oversight. And it removes the political. If you look at the Technical Working Committee that used to supervise CSSPS, you had WAEC, you had CHAS, you had the national PTAs, represented, you know, the heads were represented. That has been dissolved.
From what he's saying,
no supervisory body.
From what he's saying, there are actually no problems. People who are impatient, and the entry processes how people will navigate them appears to be the difficulty and lack of education. So
Not at all.
as far as he's concerned, or the education service is concerned, there don't appear to be any problems.
No, not at all. Not at all. I can confirm to you, and I've done checks, you know that I worked there for many years, so I have unimpeachable sources. He knows that the system crashed when they asked applicants to go and do the self-placement. The system crashed. He can confirm that to you. And that's why the GS Director General had to issue a statement that they are suspending the self-placement for a while. The initial timeline was that it will be restored last Thursday.
Right.
They couldn't meet it. The system crashed. He can also confirm that there was corruption. Persons could enter the system, drop somebody who has been placed at Achimota, for example, and replace the person. And we are hearing figures of 5,000 cedis, 10,000 cedis.
I mean, is that new?
No, it's new. That particular, the ability to enter the system, change, remove somebody who's been placed, and all, it has never happened when we were in the Ministry of Education.
When I heard news about persons who were claiming they could place people in their choice schools, and that you pay this amount of money and all of that, I wanted us to be able to confirm that indeed they've been able to do it for one or two people before we could make categorical statements. Otherwise, I thought that was just 419, pure. Because a lot of these things go on.
It's happened before.
Okay.
Not even when he was the deputy minister.
Okay.
You see, it's not everything that you can come to this platform and just mention without holding the evidence.
I'm hearing this for the first time. I wish you brought it to attention. But
let's have you conclude.
I've confirmed from back-enders, you know, insiders at the ministry who have said that these things were going on, and the system was corrupted. People could just have access. I would say that these portions require some inquiry. We need government to constitute an investigation into these matters. And finally, Samson, let me conclude. This is very fortuitous. It gives me an opportunity to continue my advocacy against the Public Universities Bill. You recall that in the Public Universities Bill, the Ministry of Education is seeking to introduce a similar system at the tertiary level, what they are calling a centralized admission platform. Look at the mess at the pre-tertiary level. They should leave the tertiary sector as it is. This should remind all of us that the resistance is genuine, is justifiable, there is basis for it.
Okay.
They should not introduce any centralized admission platform at the tertiary level.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tonda, I'll come to you. You note the three critical issues he raises as accounting for this, and you respond to them very briefly. But Kofi, from where you sit, and okay, so Imani has done some really good work about the education area, but this particular system, what do you find are the problems and the solutions, more importantly?
Right, thank you. So this happened because at the point we said, let's take human beings out of the system. And let me put it this way. I don't think personally that as a country, we are incapable of managing the placement of 400,000 kids. I don't think we are incapable of doing that. But we have consistently failed to do it. To that extent, therefore, education being our second highest budget item, we spend more money on education than anything except health. And the Ministry of Education being the largest employer, and all the resources, there is no excuse for the people working there to keep failing at this particular thing. So that's a general policy point. And I think some very serious, attention and action must be taken regarding this because it affects everybody. Number two, when the CSSPS, the original system, was introduced, we were around here, okay, it worked. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. I was in touch with some of the people who programmed it, okay? Because we were all interested and wanted to see how it was going to work. And they really did some good work. After the first year, second year, things got better. It wasn't perfect. In fact, I remember making the argument that there must by all means be protocol. Because if your father is a headmaster or your father is a Catholic priest or a Methodist priest somewhere, and for some reason he's, whatever. So we're making those arguments, just trying to
humanize the system.
And for those of you who have a certain attachment to your alma maters,
contribute. You contribute, I remember making that argument, So they were tweaking it and trying to make it, better. It worked. Why I'm saying this is that the point I want to make about why, even though I think we can manage this, we are not being able to manage it. One major point is politics. We inserted our politics and damaged the system. The original system, which was not perfect but very good, and by the way, so far, almost 20 years of running this thing, that original system has been the best. We have about a third software right now, what I'm hearing. The contract has been signed. I don't know whether they have implemented it, but a few years back, I've interacted with this system a number of times. I've interacted with, Okujeto when he was there, and I can say each group, they work hard at the Ministry of Education. But you see, they suffer the sick horse syndrome. When you are traveling with a sick horse, you spend a lot of your energy managing the horse instead of making progress on your journey. They spend too much time on the software we should have made them go forward. And part of the reason is because of politics. They cleared Dr. Samsumwe's system, which was the best so far, which was owned by the government of Ghana, and which was really doing the job. Then you bring in, and everything they've brought since then has been inferior. My biggest problem with the present administration is that knowing this was going to happen, I think not enough attention was given to make sure we won't end up with the same problems we've been having for the past almost 20 years. All right? So that must be clear. Then the other thing is policy. Look, he's reading how many spaces are in Ghana National and how many people are applying for Ghana National. The problem is not the impatience of people, parents and students. All parents and students have to do is pick their choices, write their exams, pass their exams. And what the system has to do is place them fairly. You can't give people everything they want, but give them what they deserve. And I remember writing that, look, when we wrote our commentaries and other things, the results were on the wall. Okay? All you need to do is, look, put this thing on the website. I've been saying this from day one because it's transparent. I'm saying this publicly. The reason why they are not putting it on the website, making it transparent, is because people want to intervene and interfere with this process. And Yamson, you are right. I know cases where people were supposed to have been placed and taken out, in and out, all the time from your time. Sometimes you don't get to know these things. Oh, really? Okay? Yeah. Yeah. I've been to the CSSPS place. It was like a marketplace. All right? So sometimes you'll be like, go and find the hard evidence. I don't have time to do that. I've had my personal problems. Other people, you'll be amazed how many people come to us. I don't know why they think we can change things. Yeah. But the problem is, it is the way it is because people there seek rent. This is their cocoa season. So let's say it as it is. If this thing is dehumanized, if it is removed from the system, and let me tell you what can be done. Tell me why it cannot be done. Before the exams are written, every school is there. If PRESEC has 500 places, PRESEC has declared 500 places. This is what it is. We all see it. The cutoff point is there. When people pass, they are placed there. And you see the index number and their raw scores and whatever it is. You know what? In the previous system, and I've spoken to the people who programmed it, they had what they call the replacement algorithm. All right? So what you were saying about displacement algorithm.
That's a much group.
What you are talking about when you say people picked and they got 500, and so that is it, it's finished. No. If somebody picked second choice and got 600, they displace this person, and that person goes to the second choice.
I thought that's the same thing you explained.
I thought you were rather saying that when it's full, it's full.
No.
Exactly what okay, good.
Like this is the bottom.
Then I agree with you. Point I want to make is displacement algorithm is basic programming. So my issue is, let us not make a mystery of the placement system. It can be done. It can be done fairly. It can be done transparently to the point where if my daughter does not get Wesley Girls, and I go and see that everybody who got Wesley Girls did better than my daughter, I don't have a case.
Right.
And I think that's where we must go. The other issue of policy is free SHS has compounded this thing. All right? And I return to the point we made. If you go to the US, go to the UK, go to wherever, free education at the secondary level is day. You are posted to a day school in your area.
Those of you who are still encountering some problems or have had your choice not giving you and so on, male sent to female school and so on, let's have your concerns and we'll have Dr. Tando address them directly for you. Yes.
So I think going forward, because until we create more quality schools. And I agree and I support what President Kufuor did when he was around the model school things and putting resources. At least every region must have at least 2 or 3 high quality schools. Post people to a school in their district or in their region day. Those who want to go to boarding school should go and pay.
But those already exist. If you went to the Volta region, Mauli. I mean, that's the thing. People know where they can go. If you went to the Upper East region, you know it's Navasco, Big Balls, those places.
So we should be growing
so
that.
So they are there everywhere.
No, I'm saying that, I agree. We should be growing that, and the policy must be based on that. What I mean is this. If you are going to be part of free SHS, you should expect that you will be posted to a day school in your district or at least in your region. That's what government has to do.
If we have completed the community day schools.
And let's focus on creating quality. You see, we have a few quality schools and we are burdening them. And I said it here, that if we don't take care, we reduce them to the level of everybody.
We are burdening them, but are we also not counseling our children? So you have almost 40,000, is it?
Counsel our children not to choose Wesley girls.
Choosing one school.
Listen, Samson.
And you would find that they come from all over the country.
Yes, hold on. Let me make my point. See, this thing about counseling our children, I insist. I will never counsel my child not to seek the best. Yes. What I'll tell my child is that go and compete, seek the best, and if you make it, nobody should remove you. So that is not an issue. The problem is not with parents and kids. Okay. The problem is we should have a Wesley Girls in Accra and everywhere. And that is the difference between policy and choice. People can choose what they want to choose. If you live in Navrongo and you want to come to Accra Academy and you've chosen to come, pay your way and come.
Okay, interesting. But there we may maybe differ a bit because, look, I have a girl who was getting ready for this and I had to take time and assess her strengths. And I said, look, within this community, there's a school that you can get and it is not a bad school, it's good. And when you go there and you are studious, you can go to any university you want to go to, and that's the most important thing. Okay, guess where I came from to University of Ghana.
But that council is good.
Right. So Doc, we'll come to the 3 issues that he mentions, and Kofi Bento's concerns as well, because you are here to answer everybody's concern. Right. So
I'm here to contribute.
Yes, Doc. No. You are not here to contribute.
Both ways. You contribute, but you need to answer the question.
But what we are doing here, everything we are doing here
yes.
is really for the betterment of Ghana.
Yes, and you are giving very good education, without so which there would have been a huge deficit in the discussion. Thank you very much. Yeah. Now, Doc, let's have your take.
Samson, just a quick one on what you just said. For me, I believe that I'm capable of doing every single thing on this earth. Yeah. And I think that inner drive should not be killed in any way.
Absolutely.
But what you said is valid to a certain point in the sense that, look, here we are, people need to be guided and guarded as well. So that if we give the right education to our people, if we go back to basics and have teachers who can actually take charge of students, counsel them, get sometimes even parents involved to understand the dynamics such that the child can actually do a self-assessment and say that, look, looking at my strengths, even though I want A, B, C, I think B will be the best for me. That is a different thing. But if we try to put them in a situation where we say that, look, you know what, Wesley girls is too high for you. We don't think you can get there. We are killing their inner drive.
That should not be the way.
So both ways, I think we should juggle the two alongside. But that inner drive should always be maintained. You see, today, if I were still in school, what I did back in the days, I would have done the same. Let me tell you, when I was going to go to secondary school, common entrance, I insisted that all 3 choices should be St. Augustine's College. That was my decision. The teachers in the school were trying to tell me to pick some other stuff. I wouldn't budge. I don't know if probably they may have erased something, because I remember at the time we used to throw with pencil. But I still insisted and wanted to see. Not that they doubted my ability, but they felt that at least I should have another choice. Lower 6 to upper 6, to 6th form, Form 5 to 6th form, sorry. I went through the same exercise. I insisted that and it's going to be Augustine's 1, 2, 3. They wouldn't budge. Finally, you know what I did? With all due respect to my brother from Presec, I chose Presec and Achimota as my second and third. Not because
sacrilegious.
Not because I hated them, but I still believe that, look, whatever it is,
and
I
you
need
knew
to
it
be
won't
in
be
that
available to you as second and third anyway.
Yes, but
And you work
whatever
hard.
it is, if you look at that bracket, it has a certain, in quotes, connotation when it comes to the rankings.
Right.
And I believe that this is where I belong. So for me, those aspects of life, we should still encourage people to do it. That's self-drive. We should never kill it.
Okay.
But back to some of these issues here. You see, I think we have created a problem for ourselves. Education transparency, I think these two, we haven't really perfected them. And of course, Kofi has spoken about the political aspect. We need to get people to understand some of these things, even before the date of placement and all that. We've been practicing this for 14 years, and we still haven't perfected it. And it is these same problems we keep rehashing on a yearly basis. What is wrong with us as a people?
I think that there's something to be said for teachers and managers of the education system. When your child is going to choose the schools, they actually require the parents to lead that process.
Yes.
And they don't do it without the parents. So the parents have also, may not have, as it were, carried their obligations correctly.
No, you see, the issue here is that...
If I may, because your point is to public sensitization.
That is one.
And then also the education of the user, which is the student.
Yes.
And the education of the guider, which is the parent
Yes.
and the
I think
school.
that is done.
And we do a lot.
No, hold on. Hold on. You see, there are activities that are done pre.
Yes.
So these are the sets that you do before they pick.
Yes.
Now, what I'm talking about is the second leg, where before you do the placement, you come out to all of us, tell us publicly, explain the processes like you are doing now, so that people will understand that, look, in this placement arrangement, certain things will be done automatically. This is the first phase. Post the first phase, you have an opportunity to go do self-placement. And if you are going to do self-placement, these are the guidelines. Educate us a month or two before we get there, so that the parents themselves will be psyched up and understand what is going on.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know if this is done across board, but as far as I'm concerned, the experience I told you about, this education was given.
No, let
at the
me give you
very
an
start,
example.
at the school. Before you chose, yes, at the school.
No,
we are saying
no.
they gave this education.
He is making the point about after the students have chosen, and before the CSSPS system is outdoor in terms of placement,
right?
That we should psych people up that this is the process we are going through in terms of
I'm saying that I got that education
at the school
at the very start.
No,
at the
it's
school.
not something.
So he's talking about
You are choosing, and after you choose, when the results are in, this is what you should expect, and that if you do not make this or get that, you will have to do self-placement.
Yes.
I got that education. That's what I'm
you see,
trying
something.
to say.
You see, with all due respect, you may be in a certain in quote
I'm
privileged
saying
position.
it may not be across
Yes.
board.
You see, you remember not too long ago, we had this famous thing, Casape. It was a funny thing on social media. It was being played on radio, computer. They are going to catch it. And it tells you that down within our communities, people haven't understood what was happening. If you listen to that clip very well, and these are the things, because we keep rehashing the same problems over and over.
All right.
Sometimes the problems could even be that a mail has been placed somewhere, either out of erroneous filling of the form themselves, or the system itself has its own problems. So we need to get these things clear. And then transparency. I will wish that, look, if we want to take some of the human elements away, we start pasting the raw results of people who have been admitted on the notice boards, in the schools, together with the list of people who have been admitted. After all, when we were going to secondary school,
but that's how it used to be. I don't know why it changed.
All these things should happen.
And by the way, communication is important. I mean, Rodney Nkrumah has been putting some things on Facebook. It's very useful. It releases a lot of attention. And I hear some of the notices are on school boards.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Why are you not putting these things on a website where you can now say it is here
and publicize it? Let the local radio stations
let me respond
for
to
us.
that question first. Why the non-publicity, quote unquote, alleged?
Well, it's we have a couple of things that we also need to consider. We are now.
And you have to be very brief with your answers because we have a lot of questions.
Sure, but I need to be able to at least answer this, and I appreciate the time factor. One, you are also dealing with, if I put your daughter up and put your daughter up, there are issues of psychology.
Issue. Put index number and everything else there. There's no issue.
Well,
they have done all these years.
That is there, right? But at the same time, if I go to your school, I know your index number. We all know each other's index.
There is no issue with that.
But what I'm saying is,
results are always published.
It's always done.
Okay, guys, thank you. Allow us to turn that.
Yes,
I get you.
Thank you. So what I'm saying is that, there are, when you go to the schools, like you said, they are pasted. These are the students who got into the school. These were their aggregates. These were their raw scores. These were the programs that they got into. So that is done. But I would like to quickly answer some of the major issues that came up. I would like to start with the 30% public equity policy. It is because of that child in Dofekpome that 30% equity is important in your own constituency. Because that child does not usually have the same competitive advantage to get into PRESEC.
Yeah, but
and so, Honorable, if I may,
those kids that Jojo Kobna did a story, they were using stones as computer mouses.
Yes.
No, but Doc, you see what you say, he agrees with you.
I agree with you, but I'm saying that quota.
If I may, right?
Because of the
I was going to say computer mice.
Yes. Let me.
Sorry, that's bad.
Thank you. If I may. Still in this country, in terms of quantum of students, almost 70% of our students go to public schools. The percentage of private schools in Accra may be high because a lot of us, including yourself and myself, may have the opportunity to pay. But when we get to Dofekpome, we get to Goso. Most people don't have that opportunity. And so it may be skewed in terms of presenting it as 74 or 75%. Public, because if you look at nationwide, 70 to 71% of the children are coming from public schools. So the policy is such.
I thought he said that's not the case now.
Yeah, it is still the case. It's still the case, and the data
for
is
him,
there.
The general position is that about 60% of the schools
are now private.
So let me give you some
stats. And here in Accra, over 70%.
He's talking about schools, but you can't compare schools to quantum of kids.
Okay,
right?
He's looking at the
right, because and I think it is it will be disingenuous. Right? Let me.
No, it's an important point.
Please.
It's an important point. Look, when you nationalize the statistics,
what do you
get it wrong. When you regionalize it, it's skewed. What he's saying is right. What he's saying. At the national level, it is this way. But on Ghana is 52% urbanized. In urban areas, the preponderance of kids are going to private schools, including private schools for the poor.
Which is why it's not the case.
I have all the information.
Thank you.
If you disaggregate the data,
disaggregate it. Thank you. Look at the EMIS.
Let me complete this answer. Thank you. Let me complete this response, and then I'll get on the phone lines and speak to those who originated all of this and give us a solution to a problem that we don't seem to be able
including the name that we use now.
That's the person I'm talking about.
And thank you very much. See, we also need to be sincere with ourselves. We need to be sincere with ourselves as a country, because what happens is that Honorable Okujeto, yourself, Kofi Bento, Doc, and myself, we may have the opportunity for the first 9 years to put our children through private schools, but then all those 721 schools are public institutions. But for the first 9 years, because we have access to resource, we advantage ourselves. And then when it comes time for senior high school, all of a sudden we want to shift the public kids out of the senior high school system, which is unfair. I think we need to be clear, because then usually what happens is those kids sometimes are the ones who will go to the profiteering private high schools where they don't even have the money to pay. Okay. So we need to be fair on that.
Right.
Then the last
the
point,
change of software,
change
of personnel.
Yeah. So change of software, change of personnel.
Yes.
We'll come to that. And there are some people who have questions and they need solutions to. Someone is asking, that my sister wanted to be placed in a technical school, but was placed in a regular SHS. She wants to change it. What should we do? Please help us. Farouk Abdallah from Seshwi. We also. Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says that the theoretical effect CSSPS is thrown off gear from the get-go by the abusive intrusion of protocol allocation, which can sometimes place more than 50%. This can be true. Tell me this is not true.
It's not true.
Which can sometimes place more than 50% of vacancies in the choicest schools to walls of cronies before the system kicks in. This will be anathema, a sin that cannot be forgiven if this is proving to be true.
It's not true.
But let me go on the phone lines now, and let's get to speak to Professor Somwa, Professor Clement Somwa, IT consultant and president, Christ Apostolic University College. Professor Somwa is an IT consultant who has worked in both the USA and Ghana on several IT projects over the past 35 years. He developed the computer algorithm for the CSSPS. He was involved from the conceptual design to detailed design, development, and implementation of the first version of the system. Thank you very much for joining us, Prof. Hello, Prof.
Hello?
Yes, thank you very much. If you can completely kill the volume of the system by you, either radio or television, and then let's engage directly, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. That's good.
Okay.
Right. So from where you sit, what do you find to be the problem and the solution?
Okay. Let me tell you what the problems are and what the way to go.
Okay.
Now, to develop a good placement software, you need more than 3 months. The short term they have used to develop the software, you cannot develop a good package. I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Number two, before you implement any software, we must make sure it really works. There are no bugs in it. And it has been thoroughly tested. The first one we did, we took about a year of collecting data and testing thoroughly in conjunction with the TWC, which is the Technical Working Committee. I understand it's been dissolved now. That's a very bad idea. It should be restored. Then number two, which is the most important thing, there is too much human interference with the system. This so-called protocol should be removed. During our time, it was almost completely non-existent. We refuse to accept protocol. Now it is the order of the day. And as much as 20 to 30% of the admissions are protocol, this is not right for the nation. There should be transparency, there should be openness, and people who have done well should get the opportunity to go to schools of their choice if they qualify. Number three, the security in the software must make sure that it is very good and people cannot go through the back door and interfere with the placement. Once it has been done, that's it. And if the security is not good, we must make sure that the security is good.
Is that ever possible?
Yes. You can have very good security. If you see, knowledge is not in the head of one person. If it's not your expertise and you've been given the contract, you can contact people or consult people and they can assist. Then the next thing is that to really make sure that there's fairness, there should be openness and transparency. The results should be published on the notice board of every single secondary school.
Okay.
And we should separate the one for the public schools from the one for the others. So that if we say that 30%, by the way, during our time, we did not accept the 30%. We felt it was too high. We had an alternative. we had what we call the scaling factor. All the JHS in the country were divided into 10 categories, from the least privileged to the highest privilege. And the marks were slightly adjusted from 10% to 0% addition based on the level of your privilege as a JHS. We used some data that was compiled by the USAID, and it worked very well. So if you come from a village, Brahabebome, where transportation is difficult, no electricity, and you do well and you get say 300 and your mark is adjusted by 10%, it goes to 330, you'll be able to get into Atmota over somebody who got 310. And it worked very well. The scaling factor worked very well. And we monitored it. We went to the schools and we realized those people that came in from the remote areas that got into, say, Presec and so I went particularly to St. Peter's. They were performing very well. What I'm saying, this is not something you rush to do. We have a tendency in this country to rush to do things. It is wrong. Let us take our time and do excellent job, test it very well before we implement it.
What do you think may have gone wrong with what you pioneered, so to speak? And well, I've done my checks. I've done my checks, and my checks reveal that you and your team were the most experienced hands that we could ever get, because each one of you had upwards of 20 years under your belt for this particular system, and was taken away from you and given to people who barely had a decade or even 5 years experience to run them. You had, for example, encrypted the data received from WAEC such that no GES people can interface with the data. What have you discovered may have gone wrong since you were taking off in 2009?
In fact, when we were taking off, the problem is that nobody gave us any technical reason why we should be taking off, number one. Number two, we were not given the project just on a silver platter. There was national competitive bidding, and we won. If they are going to do it again, we don't care, but let us be open and have national competitive bidding and choose the best people in the country to do it. We should stop this idea of just taking a project and giving it to our favorites. It's wrong as a nation. We should stop that.
Okay.
Get the best people to do the job. Open it up, advertise, let them compete, and select the best. That's the way I think we should do things.
Do you think that those
if you have something that is working, don't throw it away.
Okay.
If you have challenges, document it and let the people improve upon it.
Do you think that those who have subsequently handled it do not know their way about the software that you developed for the state, and this belongs to the state?
Yeah, but they didn't consult. So all the knowledge and the experience we have acquired, we just threw it away, which is wrong. Other countries don't do that. You build upon it. Even if you think you want to take new people, you can even engage us as consultants to advise them to say, oh, this is one area we had a problem, and this is the way we went about it. We can all work together. It is not NDC, it is not NPP, it is Ghana, our nation, and we must work together to accomplish something good for the country.
But by the system you introduced, was there ever going to be a self-placement, or that the system itself was going to do it automatically until the end?
Oh, yeah, we no, the self-placement, our time, you see, we didn't have the number of students they have at this particular time. So it wasn't as serious a challenge at that time as it is. But if we were to have this problem, we have addressed it. See, what we normally do during our time is that when there's a problem, we discuss it with all the stakeholders.
All right.
WAEC, CHAS, the head teachers in secondary, DHS, and all their parents, PTAs, and so on. And then once we understand the problem, then we come up with possible solutions.
Okay.
And we find the best way to solve the problem.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Clement Somwa, IT consultant and president, Christ Apostolic University College, pioneers of the CSSPS that we're talking about. So I want us to finish this. We have to finish it at this point before we go for a break. Then when we come back, we're going to abandoned hospitals, which we'll spend about some 30 minutes dealing with, and then we plunge into the corruption debate for the last hour. Practical solutions for those who are asking questions. They wanted to go to a technical school. They have been placed in a regular school. How do they change that?
Well, we have every student has the opportunity.
But hold on, but the other question is, how did it even happen? Based on your narrative.
The software is not working.
Yes.
No, the software, see, the idea that the software is not working, you know, it's, there is you have to understand that the system works, right? So this idea that the system is not working is really oversensitive.
So let's get to the solution.
How did it happen?
Let me,
let me ask a question.
If I may.
The solution to Farouk.
See, Honorable has access to the Ministry of Education. He was at the Ministry of Education for a long time. So he himself knows, you know, the challenges that he himself presided over.
Can you go to my
so and we all know
Farouk,
that in 2017.
Answer Farouk's,
okay,
Farouk's
let me get to Farouk first.
How
Farouk,
do they change that?
Farouk, you can always go and seek for a transfer to a new school.
You can always do
when
that.
you are placed in a school, it doesn't mean that you are stuck in that school.
Okay.
And
now,
so
Daniel,
Farouk is able to,
Daniel
right?
Komagbe, she says that my nephew didn't choose University Practice Senior High School, but was given.
That is not possible. That means your nephew, when my nephew, in all of his 5 choices, he couldn't get into any school. They had to do self-placement. The system will never, and we need to, you know, the system will never place someone into a school that they didn't
You heard
choose.
Prof. Somwa confirm some of the views that have been expressed by Kofi Bentil and particularly Dr. Yancey about the publication.
Yes. I want to say this. The idea that the software was given, or the project was given to a new company in 3 months, it's false. The idea that you cannot go to or look for a new system, it's also really not fair. And this is why, quickly, the first company in this country to make vehicles was Ford with a Model T. But none of us sitting here probably drives a Ford. New companies come, they improve upon existing ideas.
Improve upon.
Yes. And so if you look at the second company that did it, they improved upon Prof's system.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Yes,
we were
they
all
did.
here. No, they didn't. We've been part of this.
Sorry.
Right. And then so there is always improvement. So I think that we and you made
3 months to time you introduce a new.
See, the idea is that because the
is that what you said is false?
It's false.
3 months to time.
It is false.
How long was the time? How long was the time, or there was no any reintroduction of a new software?
There's a new software.
Honorable, there is an introduction of a new software.
Hold
on. Honorable has been at the ministry, so he knows that internal processes take a while. You may think that to the public it may seem but there's no fact.
What you said is false. It's not false.
It is false. It is false. And the reason why I'm saying,
because you started the procurement process 6 months ago.
The process takes time, right? But we also do know that, we also do know, for example, that if you have a system that there are some challenges, you need to improve it.
Okay.
He knows, because he has access. He knows that
so
the previous system broke down a couple of times.
All those who have problems.
Anybody who has a problem, we have a call center that has been set up, and the number is 030-700-7777.
Go over that again.
030-700-7777. Now, also in all of the regional capitals, we have solution centers.
Solution centers,
yes. Once people go to the solution center, we record their challenges, and then it is able.
Where do they find the solution centers in the regions?
Well, I will give you some of them, and most of them, if you go to here in Accra, it is at the Independence Square.
Okay.
If you go to Kumasi, Jackson Park, so all the different regional centers.
Can you give us one website where all this information is?
Yes.
Okay.
That, or you can find all of that at the CSSPS.gov.gh or CSSPS.org. And then also on the Ghana Education Service. But if anybody calls any of the call center, we have people there.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm sorry, but we are unable to continue with this discussion here. It certainly will continue some other time. Dr. Kwabena Bempatando, thank you very much. Acting Deputy Director General, Ghana Education Service. Thank you very much. You take leave of us, and someone else takes his seat. We'll be right back.